special edition of the Connecticut Coaches Roundtable, but this time it'll be the Connecticut Girls Basketball, and I'll be joined to have by two head coaches. First, I'll start off with the Granby side. I have head coach Mike D'Angelo. D'Angelo, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
And he's a first-timer, but now we go to a second-timer, Coach Zullo himself from the Simsbury. Say hello, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Chris. Looking forward to it.
No problem. And guys, I think I'll stay with Coach Zullo here first and foremost. You know, we'll go right down to it. January 19th, when the decision was made about pushing winter sports, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, there's definitely a little shock factor initially. I think we all anticipated something to come, but that day I had personally hadn't heard any news about any January date. It was still that November 21st date at that point. And, you know, we're scrambling to get ready at that point to get ready for an earlier start. And I thought at that point it was going to be maybe we push it back to December or we cancel the whole thing. So I think the biggest thing that hit me was strange to process it, because with your kids, you kind of want to be able to give them a, hey, we think we're going to have a season answer, or we're not going to have one. Let's like process this emotionally and kind of move on one way or the other. And that kind of left us somewhere in the middle. So yeah, definitely an initial shock factor when we got that date.
Coach D'Angelo, same question.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually the Monday after Thanksgiving. So I was focused on the 28th, and then we got the 21st, and then I think it went to December 5th maybe at one point. So you kind of get your kids, you know, all summer we were working out virtually, you know, everyone's getting ready to go. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'm with Coach Zullo. Like I wasn't expecting 12-5 to go to 119. I was thinking maybe the week before Christmas practice for a week and then see where we're at in the holidays. But yeah, it was definitely relaying that message to the kids was tough, the way it ended last year so abruptly, and they're itching to get back. And you know, being in a fall league and having no issues and everyone playing and being safe, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails when everyone's raring to go. But you know, it is what it is, and we're doing the best we can.
I'll stay with Coach D'Angelo here. I was hearing rumors before the decision was made about how it was either December 5th or nothing at all. So I think the fact that it was pushed to, you know, past the new year, past Martin Luther King Day and all that, I think it allows at least the hope. And I know Coach Zullo and I were going back and forth about this. It was the best case scenario for the winter sports, because at least now it gives time. Because if you make a decision right off the bat, then there's no room for error. It's done and you can't go back. At least now it gives at least the sport of basketball, but also winter sports in general, some time to see if these cases can go down.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's much easier to say, hey, we have hope for 119 than go to these kids on 12, whatever that day, 4 or 5, and be like, listen, it's not happening this year. I'm lucky enough to be in Granby. I don't have any seniors, so I wouldn't have to say bye to anybody like that, which is very rare. So it kind of leaves hope. Like we're working out virtually, and I know Coach Zullo and his team are doing the same, trying to get them, you know, we're building for something. And hopefully, you know, this vaccine maybe starts to come out, and, you know, positivity rates start to drop and things start to level out. And, you know, and I've talked to Coach Zullo about this offline. We don't even really care if we play. We just want to be in the gym with our kids. Like I would love to just practice. And, you know, at first we thought we were going to be able to work out maybe in groups of 4. And then, you know, it's in a case by case thing. And so, I mean, I just want to be in the gym with them. And if it means we have to hold out until 119 and see what happens, then, and that's what we have to do. But I mean, I have hope that we're going to just at least get to be in the gym with our kids.
Coach Zullo, same question to you too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same feelings that Mike has on that. And I also you're right, I had heard as well that they were going to say December 5th or nothing. That was kind of that line we had heard. And as much of a shock factor as that 119 date was initially, when you really sit down and think about it, it's the best thing they could have done to at least give us a chance, because I think all coaches can agree none of us wanted to start and stop, because, you know, at the professional level, you even see them struggling with it. the start and stop, and they have every resource to handle that, right? But at the high school level, there's just no way that we would have been able to handle it. And, imagine, getting ready for a game and having 3 get canceled in a row, and that would be worse. So at least we get a chance now to get back from the holidays, have that time happen. And then I think it's the best chance we have, and that's all that we can ask for. The thing and I know people have mixed, feelings on this, but the thing that I'm actually happiest about is that they stopped the private basketball as well. And I'm not happy for kids that don't get to do it, obviously, but just look at where the rates are going right now. If that stuff was still open, people would still be flocking to it and doing it. And I think that would remove any chance that we have a season. And so as much as I hate to see youth basketball not getting played, if all these things give us all a chance to get together and play in mid-January, then I think it's the right thing.
I'll stay with Coach Zullo here too, just to piggyback off of what you said. It also creates a factor where if you had these off, school sports, the AAU kind of style being able to be played, and you can't even coach. And you and I were talking about this, where if you can't coach, but a coach from another league who's not associated with the school can coach, it creates a lot of problems in the middle of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to put us all in really difficult situations, to be honest with you. And what is the right thing, right? I'm technically a state employee at some level, contracting for the school as a basketball coach, and me even telling my kids it's a good idea to go play AAU at this time wouldn't even have felt right. But mostly, and Mike hit on this a little bit earlier, we would have loved to have worked with our groups, even in individual skills, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. That's not stuff we get to do as much as we want in the season. If you really think about it, like the purest form of coaching is 1-on-1 coaching and helping one kid, one player get better at something and seeing that happen. So as much as we love the 5-on-5 aspect, like having a chance to do that would have been incredible. Because we can't do it in the off season in Connecticut. Right. And the one thing that I really hope comes out of all this is that they give us an exemption for this off season, at least for some amount of time, to coach our kids. Because I think it could lead to potentially, an avenue for the future for us to do it as well, because it happens in other states. Some states it's year round, and the amount of development I see in kids in those places, is heads and shoulders above what I've seen since I've been in Connecticut. And so I understand the reasons for it at some level, but hopefully that can come out of this and we get a chance to do that with our kids.
Coach D'Angelo, I want to continue that because I think, looking at your program, and I haven't had an opportunity to broadcast one of your team's games, and hopefully I can in the near future, but just knowing about, from talking to Coach Shortell, talking to Coach Hansen, having them on, and just kind of asking questions about the kids and just the way the community is. Blue collar, hardworking, seems like they play multiple sports. So for you, do you think being able to have that extra time in the off season, like Coach Zullo was mentioning, past the season, past the regulated practice time, do you think that can maybe benefit your program and kind of maybe even extend it and see more potential? Because now you're able to work with your athletes a lot more.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, in Granby, like a lot of communities, everyone's playing more than one sport, and to only get to be with them 3.5, 4 months, and then they go to other people or other things that are teaching them different things is it doesn't really help. I would love to work with them, and just to piggyback off of what Coach Zullo said, my cousin coaches in Maine, and he coaches his kids from September 1st to August 1st, and I've gone up and watched them play in the summer, and to see the camaraderie, the way they bond together, the way they get to know each other, especially incoming kids, even though the incoming freshmen can't play, they're still able to practice and be part of the program and get to know them. It puts them leaps and bounds ahead of us. And I think in Connecticut, it's tough because if we had a real season, we start the Monday after Thanksgiving. And then if we're lucky enough, March 12th, and then we'll see you again in November. I mean, it's hard. It really is hard. And it puts us behind the 8 ball, especially with so many other sports going on with lacrosse and summer soccer and fall soccer, just to be able to work with them, even if they put a time limit on it. Hey, you got you can work with them 2 days a week for an hour. That is something. You can split it up with 2 groups and work in smaller groups to help build skill. I don't think it would be used for anything like game wise. I just want to work with them skill wise. There's certain kids that need to work on certain things. And like Coach Zullo said, we don't have that opportunity in the season with 15 to 20 kids in the gym that, hey, let me pull you aside and work on this. So that's what that summer session should look like.
Guys, I think the biggest thing that COVID has done as far as just looking at it from a sports aspect, other than everybody going virtual and having to get used to that, is the fact that I think it kind of now opens up discussions and opportunities and maybe going to something that we maybe, we never even thought of. I mean, it's happening in the pro sports. I mean, look, the NFL played yesterday. It was a really bad game. The Ravens looked like crap, but they still competed with the Steelers. But the point I'm trying to make is, and I'll stay with Coach D'Angelo here, I think if the CIAC could find a way, and again, I'm not smart enough for them to be able to figure that out. That's why they get paid the big bucks. But I think that if there was a way to be able to stay with your athletes beyond this season, like you mentioned, and I'm not saying try to be like every, state, because then it starts to get like, well, Connecticut's different than Maine, but just some way to be able to help the coaches. And then I think realistically, we could see a better product as far as a high school, because everyone talks about how, and I'm tired of hearing it, Connecticut doesn't have talent. There isn't enough Connecticut girls basketball players that are good. No, they're good. It's just that they play multiple sports, or they only play this sport for a couple months. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's when you have club soccer and lacrosse and volleyball that the kids get hooked on it. And if, it's one of those things where, and like you said, like it doesn't have to be every day. I mean, they can limit it to a couple hours a week, and we can police it, or our ADs can police it, or someone can police it, where we can get 1 to 2 to 3 days, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours a week, just something to help these kids realize that, hey, you can play basketball. We can do this in Connecticut. Like, it's always talk about no shot clock. There's not enough good talent. Well, we only get 12 weeks, 13 weeks, and then that's it. And it sets the game back in this state. It really does. There is, like you said, I agree with you. There's a ton of talent in the state. It's never publicized, because once March 12th comes, or whatever that last day is, everyone goes their own way and we don't see anyone again. And I think there are ways we could do it. I mean, I think it's something that would benefit the whole state, girls and boys.
Coach Zullo, I know you have the same feelings, because I remember we were talking about when you were coming through the New York side, where if you had an 8th grader that could play at the high school level, you would put them on right now. But obviously you can't do that at the high school level. So I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, I played varsity in 8th grade. I was from a smaller area, so I probably would have done that if I was in Simsbury. But less about playing varsity at that age, but more about, I was a little more physically mature than some of my counterparts in 8th grade, and I was ready to compete at the high school level, and I got to learn that system early. I never would have become the basketball player I became if I didn't get a chance to do that. And that's one thing that makes it tough in Connecticut. To piggyback on both you guys said, though, about there being a lot of good players in Connecticut. Yeah, you're right. There are, and a lot of them are prep schools. And I don't think that anything we do are going to change that kids go to prep school. That's not it. But how could if a parent comes to me with a talented kid that could play at the college level, as a freshman or a sophomore in high school, says, man, do you think it's a good idea that we look at a prep school? Because I heard that in September and October, they're doing skill workouts, and they actually have college coaches on campus watching open gyms. What can I say to that? I can't do that, right? And so whether AAU teams are doing that or prep schools are doing that, I don't want the extra time to abuse the rules. I just want to be able to coach and give my kids the best thing I can. But if I can't honestly tell them I can give them the best thing I can give them for 12 months of the year, I can't even make that argument. So
it's almost like looking at college football. And I've been arguing about this for the last couple of weeks because of like BYU, Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina. They're all, undefeated. Liberty at the time was undefeated. Now they have a loss. But the point I'm trying to make is the college football playoff, I've said now for the last 2 years, as far as football is concerned, it's the Power Five. they might as well just call it the Power 5 championship because they don't allow
It's the money makers. The money makers.
Exactly. So I almost feel like, and I'll stay with Coach Zullo here because I feel like you may have an answer to this. Is there any way, as far as prime example, like you mentioned, if a parent says, "Hey, should I go prep? Should I stay here?" There must be a way to keep the talent from going prep. And I'm not saying the prep schools are evil and they're bad. They're not. But I'm just saying there must be a way to be able to have an equal playing field so that way the talent can be distributed equally.
Yeah, and not to go, not to beat a dead horse here, but again, a lot of kids are going to go to prep school, and that's okay. That's where we are, right? And a lot of those places are amazing places, so it doesn't have anything to do with that. But I think if we could have more of that time in the off season, I mean, something as simple as being able to run an open gym and call a college coach and have them come to it, right? Like for me to be able to say, I can help get you the exposure. I'm willing to. I can make the calls. I know enough people. At least put us on a level playing field there. I think that would be great. And a lot of it for me too is, yes, I have some multi-sport athletes, but not all multi-sport athletes, and some kids that play 2 sports. Well, in that off season they have, I really can't give them a chance to get better at basketball. I can't help them do that. To me, logically, that just doesn't work. And I understand there's reasons for it. You know what I mean? But to circle back to the whole pandemic thing, I really hope that this year gives us a chance to have this off season maybe be a trial run at that exemption, like they've done at the college level, like the NESCAC schools, for example. I know that this year they normally can't start practice until November 1st. This year they got to start October 15th, so that they had a couple extra weeks with their kids before stuff happened. I hope that the CIC can do something like that for us to give us that chance, and then maybe get some feedback from us and see how it goes.
Coach D'Angelo, I wanted, again, to use the word piggyback because we've said that a lot. I want to carry that because I think that's a good point. I think the CIAC, from all their faults that they had in the fall, I think the best way to be able, and they had some good stuff, but they also had a lot of things I think they would like to take back. I think if there's one way to be able to repair the damage that they've had to the parents and the coaches from all sports, not even just the fall, I think it's being able to communicate with coaches like yourself and Coach Zullo and being able to experiment and try stuff and not just be like, I'm going to put my foot down. We're not doing this because it's never been done. Well, 2020 happened. 2021 may be kind of the same thing until this vaccine, if it works, can work its way through the communities and such. So why not try something and help out? Because right now I found out a couple of days ago, a talented player from Naugatuck is now playing in Florida because
I saw that.
Yeah, because he didn't know who knows if the season will happen, but there was a guarantee because this kid can play. And he went to Florida because he wants to be able to play in college. And I can't fault him.
There's also a football player that went to Oklahoma or wherever, or Texas,
right.
something like
from
that.
Bloomfield,
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think there needs to be such a black and white. I mean, we can find some middle area, especially, at least for this summer, this spring, to kind of see where we're at and kind of experiment with it and then adjust off that. It doesn't have to be, nope, can't do it. Nope. I don't agree with that, especially with, if anything, the way things have gone this year. I mean, I think that everyone's learned that we can do things better. We can improve on things. There's things that everyone did do right, but I don't see anything wrong with experimenting. Again, if you want to put a time limit on it, if you want to put a day limit on it, if you want to put a cohort on it, or at least we can split up the days with kids, anything to let us work with kids, to show parents and other people around that may think about a prep school, that may think about leaving Connecticut, hey, we're allowed to work with our kids, especially like Coach Zullo said, if you have a kid that plays a basketball and then plays lacrosse but does nothing in the fall, why can't we work with that person? Like, I don't get it. It hamstrings us and the kid, and it hamstrings their development, especially if it's something they want to do at the next level. So I think everyone learned a lot this year, and I think we can improve on it. And I don't think it has to be so black and white.
Now, one thing that isn't black and white is the mask wearing, and that the CIEC, DPH, and everyone said that mask wearing will have to be a part of the game if there are 12 games beyond also the tournament that will be played. I'll stay with Coach D'Angelo. And I think the mask wearing, and I've asked since I found out about the mask wearing, I've been asking a bunch of players. I asked a couple of players from Notre Dame, West Haven, who are playing prep. And I've just been kind of picking their brains like, hey, how did practice go? How was the breathing? And I kind of got mixed reviews. Some told me that they said that it was kind of, they had a hard time breathing, that kind of had to figure out, okay, this is what I can and can't do. And I feel like on the girls' side, because I know boys and girls maybe be, a little bit different. The girls, there may be a little more of an adjustment.
Well, Coach Zullo and I both had our teams in the same fall league, and we had to do it for the last, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks. And I had kids the first half of the first game I went and watched, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is not good. It wasn't fun." And I'm like, I get it, but if it's what we have to do to play, and the more, I think it's more of a mentality thing. Like, they're not used to it. So the more we played another game with it. They've been doing some agility stuff in masks to get used to it. And now they don't complain about it at all. They've kind of come to the reality. We're like, hey, if we want this is what we have to do. And we got to suck it up. And it's not just Granby that has to do it. It's everyone. So we can't use that woe is me excuse. So we've actually done virtual workouts in masks to kind of prepare them to do it in case we get the chance to play. And in our fall league, it was an adjustment. The first week, absolutely, the kids said it was an adjustment. But I have a couple kids that played volleyball that had to do it, so they were fine. Not the kids that played soccer running around outside. That's where the adjustment was. The kids who played soccer that were outside running around all fall. But again, now we're virtually working out in masks, so we get used to it. And we've been doing it for a week now, and I think it's just part of second nature now, unfortunately.
Coach Zullo?
Yeah, as Mike said, we were both, going through the same things with our kids at the same times. And, the same feedback here. Like, it was a nuisance to have the mask on because I've never done it before, but it didn't seem like an injury risk or that I couldn't figure it out. It was more of there might need to be an adjustment when the season comes of us coaches realizing we might need to sub before we would otherwise. And there's things that we might have to figure out, but I never got the sense that kids feel like they couldn't do it. It's just that it would have been different. But not once did somebody give any kind of look or thought about not wanting to put a mask on if it gave them a chance to play.
Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely.
We're just about running out of time, but I do have one more question for each and every one of you. I'll stay with Coach Zullo. Now, we talked about the 12 games and how it's great that if that can happen, but it could affect different teams because of either they have, a couple star players, or maybe they're, equal, or maybe just lack of varsity experience. So I just want to get your 2 cents about the 12 games and how that could affect Simsbury or just teams that in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have, Mike and I were on a call with some other coaches the other night, but, Mary from E.L. Smith, I'd rather have her guard Taylor on my team, who's going to George Washington next year, if I'm not going to get to practice as much, because that's a kid that I know can do a lot of things on her own. Or there's a girl from East Hartford who's the best player in the state, in my opinion, who, if you have a player like that, you're not as worried about, going into a situation where there's a little bit more uncertainty. And Mike knows my team well, but I don't necessarily have any star players. So from a preparation standpoint, the things that we like to try to do to compete are going to be maybe a little more challenging for us. But, I'll take the rest of the time I have, Chris, to say I've got 3 seniors that have started for me since freshman year. And like, I'll get emotional even thinking about the fact that I might not get to be on the sidelines for them for one more game. So I don't care if it's going to be more difficult. I don't care if we're going to have to do it a different way or simplify it a little bit. If I can get with those kids one more time and give them that ending experience, I think that we'll compete and we'll find the best way to do it together. Because if that's what we get to have a chance to do it one more time, then none of that matters to me, honestly.
Now, Coach Zullo, were those the players that you mentioned about coming on the podcast sometime? Because I'm still looking forward to that.
They were, yeah. I've got a shooter who's hit almost 200 threes in her career. She made 80 when she was a freshman, and then 2 twins that, they've all started for 3 straight years through a bunch of winning seasons for us. And, those are the 3 that I don't want to not get to coach one more time. You know what I mean? So,
well, hopefully you can coach them, and then at some point have them come on, because I'd love to be able to talk with them just about their careers and such.
So yeah, I'm sure they'd love to. That sounds great, man. Thank you.
Now, Coach D'Angelo, I guess same question for you, because I know you said that you don't have any seniors, so you have, which sounds like a rarity, which I think in all sports, to be able to bring back your team is very important. But do you think only having 12 games could affect your team maybe a little bit differently or more depending on various teams?
I think whether we play 4, 8, 10, 12, I'll take anything. And I think these kids will too. And it's having no seniors is beyond rare to me. I mean, I've never coached anywhere where I never had one senior. I don't even have a manager that's a senior. Like, that's how crazy it is. Like, and this was going to be a big transition year for us to build to what we want to do. And I'm going to go from no seniors to 6 in the blink of an eye. So, I mean, to have this year, whether it's 4 games, 8 games, 10, 12, whether it's no games and we just get to practice, is anything that's going to benefit my program for next year, their senior year. I just, like Coach Zullo and I have talked a bunch of times. We just want time in the gym with our kids. And if it comes out to be 12 games, I'll be honest, that's way better than I thought we were going to get a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, I'll take whatever we can get. Like I said, I just want to be in the gym working with them every day. I have a great group that I love. I have 4 junior captains, which is, again, very rare. And I just want to be in the gym working with them every day. And if we get 12 games, we'll take it and we'll roll with it. And we'll do the best we can. But I'm looking forward to just being with them back together again in the gym.
Guys, I hope you're able to have an opportunity to be able to coach, and that maybe somehow we can get to some sort of normalcy and at least allow the players and the seniors and just, I think, kids itself who've gone through so much, at least some sort of normalcy again. But guys, I really do appreciate you coming on. Coach D'Angelo, thank you so much. First time coming on, not too bad, right?
not bad at all. I really appreciate it. It was an honor. It really was.
No problem. Coach Zullo, thanks again for coming on. I always love, our back and forths. When I get information about like the mask wearing or the 12 games, I have to talk to you about it because you're very cerebral.
Yeah, I'm always here to talk hoops, man. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Anytime. I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody, and be well.